On the 14th of June, 2026, on the South Lawn of the White House in Washington, D.C., a man got punched so hard in the face that blood splattered across the canvas of a cage that had been bolted into the president's back garden. A UFC championship fight, right there, at the White House, in front of 4,000 invited guests and another 120,000 people watching from the ellipse outside. While the President of the United States sat ringside, it took $60 million to build, 7 federal agencies to coordinate, and a lawsuit to try to stop it. And when it was all over, the man who organized the entire thing said, "Never again." This is the story of UFC Freedom 250, the most bizarre, most expensive, most chaotic sporting event in American history. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to July 3, 2025. President Donald Trump is standing at a rally at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, and he makes an announcement that most people in the room assume is a joke. He wants to hold a UFC fight at the White House, not a screening, not a watch party, an actual live professional mixed martial arts event, with a cage, with fighters, with blood and knockouts, on the South Lawn of the most famous residence in the world. The idea, he explained, was to celebrate America's 250th birthday, the country's quarter millennium, and Trump had the perfect partner in mind. His old friend, UFC boss Dana White. White confirmed the plans were finalized in August. The White House fight, he told reporters, is on. The date was set. June 14, 2026, Trump's 80th birthday and Flag Day. What followed was one of the most logistically complicated sporting events ever attempted in the United States. The UFC's chief content officer, Craig Borsari, was handed the job of making it happen. His budget? $60 million. His challenge? Build an entire temporary arena from scratch on the South Lawn of a building protected by some of the most intense security infrastructure on the planet. Every single item had to be screened, every truck, every tool, every cable, every bolt. Between 700 and 900 staff cleared through security every single day. 7 federal agencies were involved: Homeland Security, the FAA, the Secret Service, and more. A massive arched lighting structure, nicknamed the Claw, was constructed over the octagon. Custom canvas, a 100-foot canopy, 494 porta potties. Borsari described the whole undertaking as a beast, and that was before a judge got involved. On June 6, 2026, just 8 days before the fight, an anti-corruption watchdog group called the Public Integrity Project filed an emergency lawsuit to block the entire event. They argued it was a deeply corrupt, private, for-profit sports event, that the White House grounds were being transformed without congressional approval, and that the financial benefits were flowing directly to the UFC, to Dana White, and to Trump himself, who had purchased between $15,000 and $50,000 worth of TKO stock, TKO being the UFC's parent company, just 3 months earlier. A Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics spokesperson called it one of the worst conflicts of interest you could imagine. Even Joe Rogan, who commentates for the UFC and is famously close to Trump, went on his podcast and called the event kind of a gimmick and a security nightmare, and then said, "I'll be there, but I'm not thrilled about it. It just doesn't seem like a wise idea." The lawsuit didn't succeed. The fight went ahead. Fight night, June 14th, 8 p.m. The Marine Band played. There were tributes to first responders, active military, thousands of service members sitting in the crowd. And then the fights, 7 bouts, 2 championship belts on the line. The main event, a lightweight title fight between Justin Gaethje and Ilia Topuria. It was exactly as brutal as you'd expect from a UFC title fight. And at some point, Gaethje later told reporters he looked up, past the cage, past the crowd, and saw a display of the Declaration of Independence, the original one, and he thought their language was different. I'm not smart enough to read that, but he won. And when he did a backflip off the top of the cage, then walked across the bloodied canvas and shook hands with the President of the United States, and fist-bumped Melania. Gaethje also walked away with $825,000 in bonus money for Fight of the Night and Performance of the Night honors. Trump, by all accounts, was engaged. He stayed for the entire 7-fight card. At one point, he put on a white USA baseball cap and cheered along with the crowd. When fighters won, they came to shake his hand. He was in his element, and he'd been preparing the crowd for weeks. At one point, Trump had actually compared the cage structure to the Eiffel Tower and suggested, maybe we'll never ever take it down. Democratic politicians were less enthusiastic. California Governor Gavin Newsom's office wrote, "On social media, Mr. President, we just want lower gas prices." Senator Elizabeth Warren posted a photo of the construction site and wrote, "Donald Trump is very focused on lowering costs." But Trump responded to the critics. He told Time magazine that when Rogan called it a gimmick, at first I thought, that's not nice. And then he said, well, maybe he's right. But he came anyway. And then, the morning after, Dana White sat down with reporters and said something nobody expected. Never again. It was, he admitted, an amazing experience. A one of one. Something that had never been done before and likely never would be again. But the constant headaches, over weather, the outdoor setting, the logistics of building a cage at a federal landmark, the cost, the UFC, he said, is footing the entire $60 million bill, and according to other reports, the UFC is expected to lose $30 million on the whole event once revenues are counted. I can't afford it, White said simply. So what started as Trump's wild idea at an Iowa rally ended with blood on the canvas, a backflip off the cage, a presidential fist bump, and the man who made it happen saying politely, let's never do that again. So, did it work? Depends entirely on who you ask. For Trump, it was a birthday celebration and a patriotic spectacle rolled into one. For the fighters, a chance to perform at the most famous address in the world. For Dana White, it was $60 million and a lesson he will, apparently, never forget. For the critics, it was a conflict of interest dressed up as a national celebration. And for the rest of us, it was, simply, one of the strangest things that has ever happened in American political history. A bloodied cage on the president's lawn, a champion backflipping in view of the Declaration of Independence, and a man, somewhere in New Jersey, who once thought this was a joke, realizing somehow it was all real. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe. We cover stories like this every single week, the ones that make you think, wait, did that actually happen? I'll see you in the next one.